one of the things I was looking forward to in this convo is I have no idea if you're technical, if you come from trading, or you're just an all-around entrepreneur builder. So, and actually, I think that's like a compliment that I don't know that. That means you're probably pretty well-rounded. So, yeah, tell me more about your background and how you got to build this crazy Perps decks and CLMM.
Yes. So long time ago, I was an engineer coming out of college.
Like
I
six
actually
months
worked.
ago.
I wish,
It's a
man.
long time ago.
I wish. I, uh, I, uh, I went to grad school. I started a startup in hardware, actually. So I was actually like, did a completely Web 2 style career in hardware. I was building IoT stuff. Did that for like 5, 6 years. Went to work for
Yeah, I'm an
big tech.
IoT. IoT was like your refrigerator was gonna like clean your house too or something, right?
Bingo. We were doing like early detection systems for like commercial HVAC. So it was like energy efficiency systems, really.
Right.
Um, so yeah, I was like in the weeds. I was in the
Well,
weeds with like very early trying to get Bluetooth to work with or with cells without these. Now you have like all these out of the box solutions you can plug in and like hack together. But back
yeah.
in the day, like we were coding our own firmware to get Bluetooth to work with like mobile apps. That was a huge pain in the ass. It was like very, very tough. And like
It still is.
it's way easier now though. With vibe coding, like I feel like you could do some crazy stuff even with hardware. Even
Yeah.
with hardware. But yeah, where does that take me? Yeah, then I was a product manager in big tech for a little bit. That's how I got to Singapore. Um, and yeah, all I could think about during kind of 2019. Actually, you know what happened? This is a funny story. I bought my first Bitcoin in 2014.
Okay.
Um,
You were a year behind me.
yeah, I wish I was earlier. I was broke, so I only bought
It
like
really depended. Within that year, there was a lot of levels. I mean, the volatility was crazy.
yeah. Well, I didn't. I
Even though I
bought
bought it in 2013, I was down 50% at one point.
crazy. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sure you bought way more than I did. I was like straight out of school,
Yeah.
and super broke. But I bought a few, and I'm like, I'm gonna buy Dogecoin with this. That's how I got into crypto. And I'm
Wow.
like, I need to figure out how to buy Dogecoin. So I bought the Bitcoin. I was too stupid to actually figure out how to buy the Dogecoin at the time. So serendipitously, I forgot about the Bitcoin I bought,
Wait,
and
what
then
year was that? What year did Dogecoin launch?
that was like 2014, I think.
Okay. I got a
Yeah.
story about Dogecoin, but yeah, go ahead.
Um, yeah, and then I did the math on what would happen if I actually bought the Dogecoin, and you don't want to be doing that sort of math because
All right.
you
Well,
never know.
I'm gonna tell you the story of somebody who did buy at that
Let's
point and
hear
what
it.
happened. Yeah.
Let's hear it.
Uh,
Let's hear it.
all right. So yeah. So I was testing Robinhood and like trading in and out. I put in like
Mhm.
$3,000, and the idea was to trade in and out and see what the spreads were. Like I was just interested in that, and I thought I got flat, but I didn't. And it was like real early Dogecoin before like Elon Musk went on Saturday Night Live, and I forgot about that I even had the account. And then so somebody asked me like, "Hey, do you have an account? I want to like a Robinhood account. I want to go in and like test some stuff out." Like a year later, and
And
I'm
you're
like, "Yeah,
like,
here's my password. I think I do." And they went in and like, Rob, why don't you have any 2FA around this? There's $800,000 worth of value.
no,
Yeah,
no way,
$8,000 Dogecoin, like would that peak? And I was
no
like,
way.
I'm not selling any of it. Till this day, I haven't sold a single. And so I wrote it from 800. It went back down to like 50, and now I think
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
whatever.
That's
But
my fatal flaw is I'm a bag holder. I'm
yeah,
like I'm
so
a
I was like,
ultimate
look,
bag holder.
this is like, this is destiny. Like, I'm not meant to sell it. I'm meant to like spend this on Mars when Elon, brings
That's
us up.
right. When he
So yeah, I
colonizes.
still have it. I wrote it all the way up. So I don't know but yeah, that was Robinhood. I give them credit because like they were pretty early on. They just decided that they were gonna launch this meme coin. Like they hadn't launched anything else besides like Bitcoin, Litecoin, whatever. And yeah, they launched that pretty early, and a lot of people made some really good money from it. So
And I remember trading back in those days, and like you just didn't give a shit about the spreads, right? Because you're like, this thing is gonna 10x. I don't
yeah,
care if I
right,
if I pay 5%. I really just don't care. I don't even care if it's off 20%, whatever the price I see on any
yeah,
other venue is. I just need to move my cash into this coin immediately under any means necessary.
yeah. Those are the days.
Those were the days. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
so
So okay,
successful.
so you got into Bitcoin early. You were
So yeah, I got
working.
into Bitcoin early, and funny thing was like, so then yeah, I forgot about it basically, and then 2016, I was living in Dubai at the time, and I got to know a lot of the consensus people. They were opening up an office out there in Dubai. We were in some Dubai government thing program together, and so a lot of the OG consensus folks, they kept talking about this thing called ETH, and I'm like, oh man, what's that? Sounds like a scam. It was like $3, $4 at the time. When it's
Yeah,
like 15, I'm like, maybe I should start paying attention.
yeah.
And yeah, I just made a bunch of money in 2017. I lost probably even more on ICOs. I did all the shitty ICOs, the good ones, like literally all of them. And and then yeah, I forgot about crypto. Like moved to Singapore, went back to big tech. And 2019, actually, summer, I went back to the States. I'm from the Bay Area, so I go back and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Like everyone in the Bay Area is talking about crypto again because there was this big lull. I'm like, oh, people are talking about like DeFi and like what's going on. Maybe I should start paying attention again. Um, and so yeah, I found all my own wallets and all my old accounts, and I'm like, okay, it's time to start getting involved. And sometime after COVID, when we were all stuck at home, like I realized I was just every day I was like farming. I was trying new protocols. I was so obsessed with DeFi. I'm like, wow, this is amazing. This is the future. I was
Nice.
like really, really had drank the Kool Aid. So I quit. I was like, I can't work like normally and at my real job, like in Web 2. And funny thing, in my own group at my company, there was two other people. I found out one of them. I'm not going to dox the guy. One of them was the founder of. Turned out to be the founder of Trader Joe on AVAX. And this guy, he just bounced for a vacation, never came back. This was like
Nice.
peak of the 2020 cycle, just like never came back. And me and him would always like kind of talk about crypto on the side. So I kind of did the same thing, but I mean, I gave my notice and stuff, and got into Solana. First time I tried it, I was like really amazed because I was big into farming on ETH, but gas prices were going crazy. So I went from like ETH to BNB, and I'm like, oh, BNB's cool, food farms and stuff. And then when first time I tried Solana, it was pretty early. I think it was like when Step launched, one of the first big tokens on Solana, and I'm like, oh my god, this is crazy. So I started to do hackathons on Solana. I started with like the second one, made a yield farming protocol. We won like a prize. The team like immediately disbanded after we got some money. There was like instant fighting because we were a bunch of randos right from the internet. And I'm like, all
How'd
right,
you
okay, no worries. Summer.
normal hackathon, or was it like a super team thing? That was probably
No,
before
this was
super.
pre Super Team.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was before Super Team. It was literally it was called the Serum FTX hackathon, or so. It
There
was
you
like
go.
the second hackathon ever in Solana. So it wasn't the
Yeah.
first one, but it was literally the second one.
That was
And,
doomed. It just,
and I remember,
just the
yeah, it
name.
was there were some interesting characters in the
Yeah.
ecosystem back then.
Yeah.
But it was fun. Like everyone was very excited. The energy was like crazy. Everyone thought like there was just such conviction around Solana and it being the future
Yeah.
that that you can like feel it. You can feel when you talk to people. You can feel when you talk to the foundation. It felt like if you weren't just like working 24/7, you were going to get left behind because that was the case where there was multiple teams working on the same stuff. So it was very competitive in the early days. I ended up building a structured products protocol, and that ended up being acquired. And I was doing a bunch of option stuff for the next like 3 years, all the way from the primitives. So we had like the infrastructure level euros and Americans to we had vaults, we had like AMMs. We helped other teams launch like option airdrops That was like a new primitive we had worked on, at least for Solana. So you can airdrop a user with the physical options, so they have some very low buy-in price, but kind of sets a floor.
Hmm.
And yeah, that's kind of my journey in Solana, and then from there to Fogo.
Yeah, let's talk about that. So, I mean, you guys have been awesome in terms of shipping. And I know it's not easy because, like, a brand new chain, like, it's not like we have tons of support and documentation like Solana. So, yeah, how's that experience been from first when you launched the? And also, let's talk about, for people who don't know, like, what's the difference between a CLMM and an AMM, and like,
Yeah,
why'd you go down that route first?
yeah. I think the kind of three maybe core paradigms, oh maybe four, are like AMMs, which is like the Uniswap simple V2, which is even signs of even sides of both sides of the asset, right? So you pair the same liquidity, um, but that doesn't give you much control over where you want to put your liquidity. So we'll
Yeah.
concentrate
By the way,
liquidity.
your background's engineering. How'd you learn trading? Just on your own?
Yeah, just spent the time, just the
Cool.
time. I think it's probably easier to go from engineering to trading than it is from trading to engineering. Although I think a lot of these quant traders are actually like very good engineers. That's just my sense of the people I've been
Yeah.
working with.
Yeah.
But I will say these days, not to go on a crazy tangent, but like with the AI tools available, I think the edge is going back towards people that actually have very specific domain expertise. Because at some point in the very near future, and maybe even now, if you really know like a niche very well, whether it's like HFT, maybe not HFT because that's very there's a lot of other complexities there, right? But
Yep.
let's say like you're the best person in the world about subsea drilling, right? And you want to make some sort of like platform for it. Well, like 20 years ago, you needed to get some engineers to like build this thing, the back end, the front end. But now you could probably do that entire thing yourself. But no random engineer is going to know what the problems are in that industry or like how to
Yeah.
solve them. That's kind of like that's something special you have. So I think that pendulum is swung now to the domain experts.
Hmm.
But yeah, that's just a little tangent.
Yep. Yep. So sorry, you were talking about Uniswap V2.
Oh yeah, yeah. So V2, yeah, you have even sides. When you deposit liquidity, you basically deposit liquidity across all the prices, all the potential universe of prices. The plus side of that is you can spark new assets very easily. Like think of pumped off fund, right? Pump funds pools they all start with V2s. You can spin up pools with like 70 grand, 10 grand, and you can quote on any price, right?
Yep.
But as an asset becomes, let's say, like more liquid, more sophisticated people, let's say, want to only deposit their liquidity in a very tight range, or they want to constantly upgrade their liquidity, maybe programmatically, then you need concentrated liquidity, which allows you to set your liquidity. Like maybe it's, for example, in Solana, you want to set it right now around 95 to 85 and put all your USDC there. And that's where you want your trading to happen. Um, on Solana, now the meta has kind of shifted to prop AMMs, which I think is great for consumers. They have their own issues.
And for people who don't know, can you give the high level of what how a prop AMM works relative to AMM, and then
Yeah,
this normal?
so
Describe.
so the AMMs and CLMMs are largely fully composable. The code is open. You know what's going to happen. You know where the liquidity resides. They're open for anybody to build on top of, and they're transparent. But I think what the prop AMMs uh, learn is that if you can update your liquidity very fast and be kind of at the top of the block, you can actually quote a price that's closer to the true price, basically the Binance price, right? Because that's the most liquid venue.
Yep.
Uh, and if you do these kind of tricks like winter mutes addresses and there's a sophisticated actor or jumps addresses and you can deny quotes or widen your spreads if that address is sending you basically an order, then you can actually give other people better prices because they're not sophisticated participants and you're not getting picked off.
Yep.
But through some of these like innovations, and a lot of it also, and I'm not an expert on prop AMMs, but is really sending a lot of updates to the program, like 3 to 4 updates per order. So maybe thousands of Oracle updates to adjust kind of the curve of what the prop AMM is quoting. They're basically like a market making algorithm that's sitting on chain. They're like black boxes in some sense to the outside world, meaning that they're not really composable. You can't directly see what's underneath there. They try to obfuscate what they're doing because they don't want to get picked off by sophisticated market participants like a Jump or a Wintermeter or other folks like that.
Yep. Right. And there could be lots of prop AMMs behind a single aggregator, and
Yeah,
that
yeah.
has been taken
There's
off.
on Solana, there's probably 10 to 15, right? Two or three, probably the biggest ones at the moment. But these things change. Sometimes might get too competitive. Somebody can have some edge, and flows can move around. It just depends.
Yep. So let's just talk about when we're talking about Spot and Valiant. How are you thinking about like how you started with a CLMM, probably for good reason,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
given like there was just very few assets trading and small liquidity to start. Like, but how do you see Valiant evolving in Spot?
I think given like I think given Fogo's speed, we'd like to bring back the Klob. We'd like to run the Klob experiment again.
You want another shot
Mainly
at Serum?
because, yeah, I mean, like mainly because a Klob lets, I mean, it can express many individuals like pricing curves together in one venue, right?
Yeah,
So basically, like it's aggregating orders among your, if you have market makers, other people, it allows order aggregation in some sense.
yeah.
And we worked with Serum back in Solana. Like we had I think we were one of the first implementations of Serum for not just spot. We had options
And by the way, for
decks.
those who don't know, CLOB is Central Limit Order Book. It's a matching engine where people place orders and those orders match.
Yep. Yep. So we saw firsthand. So Serum was an early one in Solana, kind
Yeah,
of,
we were on Serum.
yeah, kind of the
It was
first one. And
crazy.
man, did it have a lot of problems. It had a
Yeah.
lot of problems. But I mean,
Well,
I think,
it was it needed to happen. So Solana was the first blockchain that you could even like you can even deploy a CLOB on. Like you could even think about it, right?
yeah,
And nobody knew like what the issues were until like there was a CLOB that people were trading and people were getting picked off. And so it was kind of this it was like the sacrificial lamb, or I'd say the traders on there were.
it had to
And
be right.
that,
To,
like that was the big reason why like we saw that like it was too slow to update every 400 milliseconds on a cloud. And it was a big reason why we launched Fogo and decided that we are going to figure out a way to design it so that we were down under 50 milliseconds so we could update quotes faster. So yeah, like I tip my hat to like Serum and all the traders that took hits there because it helped us like figure out what the issues were with on-chain CLOPs.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
So you're gonna
And
bring back the CLOB on Fogo. I love it.
and too expensive, right? Updating your price was, especially when
Yeah.
Solana
Yes.
was at that time, the network can get congested and stuff, and you would have to spam orders, and there was all
Yeah.
sorts of issues with even Solana itself. There was network downtime. Your quotes could be really really stale, and then it was a mess, right? Um, but yeah, I'm excited to try that next. I think as assets come on board and like the need for like right now, I think the flows that are happening are manageable, like with the concentrated liquidity decks, just because and the number of assets, there's just not a ton, right? But as these things grow, we'd like to bring back the club experiment and see if we could like learn from the mistakes of Serum, Obviously, the infrastructure is a lot better now, and it's much faster, and it's much cheaper.
Yeah.
And see if we can take a next stab at it. Really.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about perps because there's a couple dynamics I think that were at play, and it'll be really cool to hear your insights. So, just in general, originally like Fogo and now the hub was really built to like support really optimal perp stacks, or many. And my view with my Fogo hat on is like I'd love to see like many different perps experience and like may the best one win, and maybe multiple will win. And it seems like there's just a lot more demand, a lot more RWA coming on, so it seems like a very big addressable market. And I want to see Fogo be the home to like many successful perps experiences. So that's number one. We're waiting for the native perps experience. Actually, there's going to be a rebranding coming out soon in the next couple of days. Maybe by this time it'll come
Ooh,
out. So I don't even want to say the name.
we're looking forward to it.
Yeah. Um, and but the other part of this is, I come from like a white label background in FX,
Mhm.
where most new brokers or exchanges, they didn't really have an interest in like reinventing the wheel when it came to liquidity. So there was a couple big liquidity exchanges like CurrentX that offered white labels, and a lot of new exchanges, brokers were like, you know what, I'm never going to compete with this amount of liquidity that they already have. But what I am really good at is front ends, is marketing, is incentivizing traders, retaining traders. So I'm gonna just white label this CurrentX liquidity and like have my logo on there, and then focus on like the front end. And they end up owning the client, and then they can reroute it. So that's a very powerful model. So I'm a big fan of this kind of white label model. And when I saw that Hyperliquid was doing it, I kind of predicted that this would take off, because there's a lot of people that like that's tricky. That liquidity risk management, it's really tricky, and it takes a long time. Like we've seen these other perp stacks spend like years building out just to get to launching like 3 assets, right?
Yep.
So, just I want to hear from your perspective when you decided to launch a Perps experience, which you did very fast. Kind of going through that experience, that decision process, and then like the actual process to implement with builder codes. I'm kind of curious how that all went,
Yeah, yeah,
and yeah,
yeah.
just want to hear the inside baseball of that.
Yeah. I mean, that's you kind of hit the nail on the head in terms of the liquidity piece, right? So obviously, we're super pumped for the Fogo native experience to be built, but kind of the calculus in our heads were we can build a front end. I mean, it's not instant, but we can do it in, let's say, 4 to 6 weeks after some bug testing, maybe 8 weeks, right, end to
Yeah,
end.
and it's
And
awesome, by the way. I've been
yeah,
using it a lot, so
thank
congrats.
you, appreciate it. Like, I think our strong point is really in acquiring users and building good experiences. And I think our new products are going to be really heavily focused on how do we build the best experience and tools for traders, like writ large, right? Whether that's like AI portfolio optimization, or just like feedback, or mobile apps, or customer service. Like, we want to focus on like these layers. Our expertise is not, like you mentioned, risk management and getting the liquidity providers on board. And also, when there's like a venue like a Hyperliquid that has like sex comparable offering, and it's so easy to integrate with, like, it kind of made the route the quickest one, and at the time one of the only ones. Like, maybe you could do it with Aster, maybe now you can do it with Lighter as well. But at that time, really, it was pretty much just Hyperliquid, and obviously they were the most like liquid venue. So that was kind of the decision making tree. And to your earlier point about, once you have the front end experience and you kind of own the customer relationships, then if liquidity at some point there's a better venue for it, if you want to aggregate multiple venues, that's up to you, right? So you can innovate on that front too. Or if there's different assets that Hyperliquid can't offer, for example, then we can do the
Or
routing
if
and stuff.
regulations come out and you need to reroute to some other.
Exactly. You never know, right? You honestly never know.
Yeah.
So, so yeah, that was kind of the thinking about why, and so far we don't have too many complaints, honestly, about building on Hyperliquid. The process was fairly straightforward. Their docs are really really good. They handle a lot of the nitty gritty of like build, like even the Dex, right? The Dex itself, like okay, there are some innovations on the contract side to support Fogo sessions, which is like gasless one-click trading experience, which is not trivial and does require a lot of thought, especially on how to not get rinsed by people trying to spam.
Yeah.
But like the contracts, there's tried and tested contracts that we built on top of, right? So we didn't really reinvent the wheel there. But on the Dex side, what takes a lot of time with Fogo's block times is your indexing, making sure that you're not falling behind the block. So your infra actually and like storing historical values of P&L for users and stuff to show them the information does take a lot of time. But Hyperliquid kind of gives you all of that out of the box, right? It gives you the user data, it'll give you the positions. So like for you as a builder, you don't have to worry about spinning up like all this crazy backend infra to support your front end interface. You just need to focus on making a really good front end, and then if you want to do historical stuff like that, you can always add that in later. But like just spinning it up out of the box, a lot of the heavy lifting is done by the Hyperliquid team.
Yeah, I mean, if you go on their site and just look at all their docs and all the things they have going
Crazy.
with HIP 3 and 4, it gives you an appreciation. Like people just see this as like a bunch of whales like punting perps around. But the amount of foundational work that like 11-person team has done and the amount of like thinking that first went through it went into that, and then um like the amount that's available for users and builders is impressive.
Yeah. Like
It takes a long time. So like they both built that, and then also like built this perp stacks and then had to like deal with like being attacked and like changing the risk and all that stuff. So yeah, I've often tipped my hat to them. Um, and it makes sense that builders like you are gonna leverage what they're offering. Um, we'll see how it plays out. The um, like with exchanges, when they get a lead in terms of liquidity, they become like very monopolistic
hmm,
because of what you said. Because it's very easy when somebody else owns the client to reroute and say like, all right, they're giving me a little bit better deal, or they're giving me better liquidity. And then you become a bit commoditized as the liquidity provider, whether you're, like a trading liquidity provider or an exchange white label.
right.
And so it remains to be seen this model where they're just open and like anybody can go and use their liquidity or route away from them. It remains to be seen like how successful that is.
Yeah.
Because like we haven't seen that. Like all these other exchanges, they're like anti-competitive, even with their market data. They have teams of lawyers that if somebody uses their market data without paying them, they sue them. Like, and so this is like a brand new territory where Hyperliquid saying like you have to pay us, but like anybody can come and like use our liquidity and um, mirror that anywhere else. So we'll kind of see how it plays out. But I tip
Yeah.
my hat to like all the work that has kind of gotten to this place that other people like you are leveraging.
It's yeah, I think there's a couple of things that I really have gained appreciation for as I started working with them. Not on the tech side because the tech is solid, but just on the kind of like the business model side. One is their builder code program, how open it, like you don't have to talk to anybody on the team. Like anyone
Yeah,
can go do it. And the pricing model for them is so straightforward. It's, hey, we take our nut, our fees are the same, regardless of, and you do whatever you want on top, up to a maximum. I think
yeah,
the maximum is 10 bips. But up to that, like whatever, you just add whatever you want on top, and like we don't really care. So that allows for literally anybody to go build on top, and you don't need. Imagine if you were trying to like do a liquidity deal with even like these sex like crypto liquidity providers, you have to get contracts, negotiations, and
Yeah.
probably just to see sign an NDA to see their API specs and stuff. This was we totally aimed on and spin something up. So that was really cool. And how they took a similar model with HIP3, except the bar is much higher. So if you want to spin up your own like bespoke markets, like Trade XYZ is doing for commodities and kind of these RWAs, or you're seeing that like Dreamcash. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but like Tether invested in Dreamcash, and Dreamcash is using USDT as a quote asset, right? So they will obviously are incentivized to use USDT, get people to use it on Hyperliquid, and uh, and so there's so much flexibility in creating your own markets, and they've created this way where yeah, you can do that on top of Hyperliquid, and they still get their nut, they still get their fees, and you just add on top of it. So it's like
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty
Yeah.
solid.
So look, I've talked a lot about that model and what I like about that model. The love fest though is about to end for me in Hyperliquid because I've spent the last week talking to traders about what the issues are. And there's some real issues. Like for example, you mentioned HIP3. Like a lot of people think that that actually hurts them because there's like 4 or 5 Teslas and like
Yeah,
nobody knows which Tesla to trade and it fragments liquidity. So that's more of kind of a business decision. But then on the latency side, there's some real issues with both the amount of time it takes for orders to show up. There's speed bumps on crypto. They're in Tokyo, and now like oil is in CME and not in Tokyo, and that
yeah,
latency causes issues. So I'm gonna start amplifying some of these issues, um, and obviously, I want Fogo and the hub to support a perps dex that doesn't have these issues. And so I'm gonna start talking a little bit more about that. I'll probably get attacked by the Hyperliquid army. But the reality is, there's some. I think they picked the low hanging fruit. There was never a blockchain that optimized in Colo for like being next to Binance.
yep,
But the client software is not perfect. The latency profile is not perfect. That's why you need a speed bump. That might be because the Oracle is delayed. We're lucky to have Pyth, and we're working to optimize Pyth even to a further degree with the hub. And so, yeah, I'm going to start talking more about what I see as the issues that are holding them back and how Fogo and the hub are going to essentially, take care of those issues. I mean, at some point, somebody's going to surpass us, but like we think that we can get down to kind of like 8 microsecond latency within the hub
wow.
for market data and between the validators and the dexes. So, um, so yeah, and then like we had paused follow the sun because it just complicates things. Um, but the reality is with RWA and oil,
Kind
that's
of
going to
needed.
make a big difference. Yeah, like we want consensus to be happening, next to the CME, like during the hours that the oil market's open. So even though day one, we're not following the sun yet, that's going to be an important one, and I'm glad that we tested it in testnet so that when we are ready to do that, it's kind of flip a switch type thing. So yeah, the love fest with Hyperliquid is going to end because like, look, I didn't build Fogo to like have a number 2 perps dex on. Like we want to go. We want,
We're excited. Obviously,
yeah.
we
No, you're
want
going to
Fogo,
be a big part of it.
we want Fogo to win. We need Fogo to win for us to win. So like
Yeah.
we're
Look,
super pumped.
and you guys have done your part, so I appreciate it. We're in the background doing our part to get a little more traction in the ecosystem and assets and users, however we can. And I know when this other perp dex launches, like they're going to be working closely with you guys, and we're going to kind of see it as like a joint effort. And we're already, supporting that on the user side and the incentive side, and we're just going to keep doing more of that. So I appreciate it. If you want to leave anybody with anything on the Valiant side, any calls to action, feel free.
I'd say if you are a perp trader, definitely come give it a shot. Valiant.trade/perps. Look out for some AI trading features we have coming up. if you have any suggestions, or if you're like, hey, I really want XYZ feature to be built, I haven't seen it on any perp dexes. One of the early differentiators between us and I think other builders out there is we really want to build like hand in hand with the community. Like I'm in the chat like all day trying to figure out what people want, and we will build what people ask for. And I think that's how we're gonna pivot our way into building a perp dex for the people, right? For the users themselves. And we're not going to guess on what people want to be built. We have the base stack there, and we have like some ideas with AI and obviously like mobile. But from there, we really want the community to guide us. So yeah, if that sounds interesting for you, definitely come give us a shot. Come through, come check it out. And like us, we're always open. Come through the chat and say hi.
Love it. All right, Russ. Thank you for this. This was fun.
Thanks, man. Appreciate the time.